Well, what Coca-Cola is to colas, what Pepsodent is to toothpaste, the Honda City is that thing to the sedan buyers in India. This car really has been the go-to car in the mid-size sedan segment, and not without reason. It offers you a luxurious interior, it offers you very sharp looks, and it also comes with a very nice and punchy petrol engine. But now, Honda wants to take the game further away from all its rivals with this, the new hybrid version of the City. Now this car is all new, it's got a new powertrain, but how does it drive, how does it sit in, how is it in terms of comfort, and should you invest your money on this car, because this car has been the king for the last 20 years of its segment. Many manufacturers have come and tried, but no one has been able to dethrone the Honda from the top of its perch. So today's question is that after 22 years and with this new technology, is this car still worth buying? I'll answer that question by the end of the video review, but before that, here's a small request. Please do follow me on Instagram, and also if you've come here for the first time, please subscribe to this channel. Let's get started with this video. Well, let's quickly show you a walk around video of this car first. The big differences with the regular version of the car, of course, is that you get a nice spoiler over here. If my cameraman can bring the camera closer, you'll see there's a very subtle spoiler. It's not in your face. This shade of maroon also looks very good on this car, and there are subtle differences on the bumper, the low profile of the bumper especially. You get this fake diffuser like design. It does look very cool, but of course it's there only for gimmicks and not really something which you will want. The big difference, of course, is that the boot of this car, as you can see, is smaller, much smaller than the regular version of the car, and the reason for that, of course, is that you get an extra battery pack over here, so that takes away a lot of space. So the boot is much smaller. It's still quite deep and quite usable, but yes, if you really want to compare with the regular version of the car, I think this one is more in Honda Amaze territory, and the earlier version, of course, is the king of the segment. Nice cuts all across. The design of the alloy wheels is also different. It definitely is a much cooler looking design, and of course black and white effect as well. Other than that, the rest of the car is more or less the same. You still get this camera over here, which is a very cool touch. It helps you with the blind spot assist, and the front end also is more or less the same. No big changes over there. I think this car looks very nice, and it's a very balanced silhouette. The only difference on the front, of course, is the grille now. The chrome bar is still there, but the grille is slightly different, and the bumper also has been slightly modified. It's not a big difference, but it has been slightly modified. I think this car still looks the part, even after being around for the last 2 years. Now, if you move on to this side, I want to show you how you enter the car. It's a very cool thing. You have a nice sensor over here. If the cameraman will bring it here, I'll show it to you. You have a sensor over here, and this button over here. All you need to do is simply get your hand in over here, and the car opens up, and you jump inside the car. It's as easy as silk. So let's jump inside and show you the interiors of the car, and if they really are that much different to the regular version of the car. Well, I'm sure by now all of you are aware that Boodmo are the online expert when it comes to spare parts, and the best point is that they have the spare parts for all vehicles available in India. So even if your car is out of production now, maybe you have a large generation model, even then they have the spare part available. They have the entire catalog, and the best point is that they have the same spare part from a host of different component makers, which gives you great flexibility in the pricing overall. Well, the interiors of this car are identical to the regular version of the car. The only difference is that this over here, the upholstery is slightly of a softer shade. There's a slight difference in the shade, and this also is slightly different. It's not a big difference, but very marginal difference. Other than that, it really feels like the regular version of the car. The steering wheel adjusts for rake as well as for reach, and you get the same kind of equipment list. You, of course, don't get a regular handbrake. You get this electric brake over here, and you also get this brake hold function, and of course the automatic gearbox with the eco mode is there. USB, you get 2 USB ports over here. The old type, they're not the C type, so that's something which Honda should have really included now. And of course a regular 12-volt charging point, and the same cool looking design where the color of this temperature gauge or the temperature meter changes, because of course, you know, it's a cool Honda trick that they play. The dashboard, the overall layout, everything is very easy to operate, very intuitive to use, and also what you like is the seat comfort. Seat comfort really is excellent. Honda makes the best seats in the business, and the seats on the City are the best. They're the benchmark in this segment. Sunroof again the same, and really it's identical to the regular version of the car. What you'll also like is this nice forward finish and soft touch materials all across the cabin, which really make it look and feel very elegant. Now let's jump in the back seat quickly and see how roomy and spacious that really is. Well, as you can see, the back seat has always been the best place to be in the City, and this is a very spacious place. Now, I haven't changed the front seat. It was set for my position and my driving height, and my reference is 5'10". So if you're 5'10", your chauffeur is also 5'10", or maybe you're in 5'11", maybe if you're 6 feet tall, headroom and knee room should not be a problem. You sit at a nice 90-degree angle. The seats also feel just as comfortable as your luxurious sofa at home. The seats also feel just as luxurious as your sofa at home. You also get a armrest over here and a couple of beverage holders, a couple of AC vents, and a couple of charging points, which are both 12-volt charging points. And the best point is that the floorboard here is almost completely flat, so there's plenty of place to stretch your feet. Really, the City has been the benchmark for seat comfort and for space, and it's no different with the new version of the car, the hybrid version of the car. So really, full marks to Honda for delivering a perfect car in the backseat department. I think if you're a chauffeur-driven passenger, you always love to sit in the backseat, then you'll always be sitting and enjoying it and telling your driver to drive all the way up to the hills and enjoying that evening tea with your aunt over there. Anyways, now let's get to the driving bits and tell you how it is to drive. Well, so before beginning this part of the video, let me just tell you about this hybrid system. You basically get a petrol motor like the 1.5 regular version of the car. You also get a battery pack at the back and a couple of electric motors to help assist with the overall drivetrain. Now, when you start off from cold and when the battery pack has enough charge in it, then when you start off this car, you drive it in the pure battery mode. So it's a pure E when you start it off. After that, when speeds increase and you're on the highway, then there's the petrol motor and the battery pack which assists it. If you're cruising on the highway, then only the petrol motor is working at 80 or more than that. But when of course you need that little bit of extra push with the acceleration, then you get the battery which gives you extra torque to the motors. So it works in tandem, it works together with the petrol motor, and sometimes the petrol motor also works as a generator for the battery pack. If it decides that you don't really need that kind of acceleration, you don't really need the petrol motor, you can easily survive on the batteries or move on the electric motor alone. So this petrol motor works as a generator for the battery pack. And when you are on standstill mode, like we are at the moment, this car also, the engine is shut off. How is the AC working? Again, because of the battery pack. So all these things make it a very high-tech car and a pure hybrid. It's not a fake hybrid, it's not a mild hybrid, it's a solid hybrid. And the total output of the engine and the drivetrain and the electric pack and the batteries and everything is 126 PS, which is a little more than the regular version of the car. But this car, remember, also is about 120 or 130 kilos heavier than the regular version of the car. But Honda claims that the acceleration of this car is better. It does 0 to 100 in 10 seconds. That's what they claim. The CVT petrol does it in about 10.4 seconds. So there's a difference of about half a second, 0.4 of a second. Well, so enough of talking about the system. Let's drive this car and tell you how it is to drive. Well, in terms of the driving bits, I have to say that it's a seamless car to drive. What do I mean by that? Well, you don't even get to know which motor is doing what when. You'll have to look at the gauge over here, which describes and which keeps showing you where the power is coming from. So right now, the entire power is coming from the battery pack, and just now as our speeds went over 40, we can see that even the engine, the petrol engine, is supporting the battery pack now. So it's working tandem, and as I said, you really don't get to know which motor and what is powering the car and when, because it is so efficient and so effortless that you don't get to know anything about it. What you'll also like is the gearbox. The gearbox really is fantastic because there's no gearbox, there's only one gear, and it's a seamless transmission. So that's something which a lot of buyers will also appreciate and like. And what you also like is the fact that on the highway you will enjoy the ride comfort. The suspension has been stiffened up slightly. It's a slightly stiffer suspension setup because remember, the battery pack and everything weighs up and gives you about 110 or 120 kilos extra. So the suspension had to be made a little stiffer. It's not overtly stiff and it's not something that will become uncomfortable, but yes, it's something that you can feel if you have driven the regular version of the petrol City, like I have been driving around in Delhi. So that's something that you can feel instantly. Other than that, what else is there about the car? The steering wheel input and the steering wheel response is good. It's just as accurate, just as feelsome as it is on the regular petrol powered City. What you'll also appreciate about the car is the fact that high speed stability is good. We have touch speeds in excess of 100 kph in the morning when you're on the highway, and the stability there was quite good. And just in general, it's a car which really is a very strong mix of comfort, performance, as well as technology. Well, so you might be wondering what is the use of paddle shifters when this car doesn't really have a gearbox. It's a seamless gearbox. It's only one gear ratio. This system here, this paddle shifters, isn't just for the gearbox. I mean, there's no gearbox as such. This is for the level of braking that you want from the car. So if you put it in the lowest mode, or if you put it in the highest mode, if you put minus, then it is the maximum braking that you get. So if you remove your foot off the accelerator, it feels like somebody is really press the brake hard, which you're not doing. It's the engine and the drivetrain which is doing it for you. But if you put it in the top mode, if you put all the plus and go in the third mode, then it reduces. It's the least braking effort that the drivetrain puts. So obviously the batteries will not charge as much in that mode as they will in the lower mode, in the lowest gear to say. So that of course is something which is very useful, because you can change the level of braking. And the reason for that is that when you're taking this car on the highway and you take your foot off the accelerator, you don't want immediately to have that braking effect, because it just breaks the momentum. But of course in the city you want that braking effect to be there, because in the city you're driving at much lower speeds, 40 or 50 kph is the top speed that you can achieve, and on the highway of course 90 or 100 is where the car can easily go. So that is the reason why these paddle shifters are behind over here. So don't think that they're there for the gearbox, because as I said, there's no gearbox. They're there to change the levels of the braking that the engine has to offer. Well, overall, if you're in the market for a sedan car which offers you great comfort, great technology, a hassle-free nature, and also want a car which is very fuel efficient, then this hybrid city really is a car that you should zero on. Yes, the city petrol version, the regular petrol version, is already the king of its segment, and this hybrid version of the car really takes the game one notch up and further away from all its rivals. It might be a little more expensive than the regular petrol version of the car, but definitely when it comes to hassle-free nature, when it comes to ease of drivability, when it comes to fuel efficiency, and when it comes to that Honda peace of mind factor, this car has it all. I recommend a strong buy on this car. You should definitely take a look at it at a Honda dealership near you, and I'm sure you won't be disappointed.